Hello AOS fans, Robin here, and I'm back with a deck review for you. Haven't done one of these for a while. Pete and I have been under lockdown, as many of us have, and we've been playing games on TTS, and they've been going out on Fridays, but I frankly don't know what day it is or what week it is, so I'm not quite sure what game's going out when, so I haven't done a deck review for a while, but I have been playing the Condemnors a lot, so I thought I'd do a little deck review and explain to you where I'm at with the deck. So this is after the current set of games we've played. We have got another set tomorrow, and I've got going to tinker with this deck slightly more. I have Condemnors Poison 3 ready to go. Where are we with this deck? Well, I've been trying to exploit the fact that the Condemnors have 3 distraction cards, and I sort of call it control, but it's kind of more, it is quite an aggressive deck. I think you have to play these guys aggressively. So it is quite aggressive. When I tried to play pure control placement, I'm either not very good at it or the Condemnors aren't very good at it, and it didn't go very well. So this is a bit more aggro-y, but it has got a few things in there to disrupt my opponent and try and stop them from scoring their glory, although there are cards missing like Restless Prize or Mischievous Spirits, just to get some more interesting cards in that people perhaps don't play that often. This is the current iteration then of the deck. As I say, this is the last tested iteration, and it didn't quite work, and I'll explain why, although it was still pretty strong, but there's something I will change going forward. The biggest problem with these decks, I think, is finding decent surge cards, and so let's have a look at those first. So Branching Fate is not a card I'm a fan of. You've got to get 3 or more dice in attack or defense roll, and they've got to be different. It's obviously at the whim of the fates, and you might have this in hand and just not score it, which is very frustrating. But there aren't very many good cards, so that's why that's in here. Calculated Risk, again, it's not a card I'm a fan of for this warband. I don't like playing it in 3-person warbands because you're taking out one of your fighters, and one of their strengths is the fact that they have 4 wounds. You're taking them down to 3, which makes them killable. But I just generally don't like it. But I need that reliable, easy to score glory. The only problem is it does also mean you need to have an easily reliable, easy to run through lethal hex, and that again is a bit of a liability for 3-person warband. So Calculated Risk is definitely a double-edged sword, or maybe even a Calculated Risk. Get the Hence and Forceful Banishment are 2 cards that I kind of feel like work together, and there's an awful lot of knockback in the deck. But these are the cards, this is one of the ones I'm going to change. Get the Hence. Score this immediately. If a friendly fighter's attack action drives an enemy fighter back 2 or more hexes. Now these cards are pretty great against maybe Rippers or Wormspat, where you just need to drive them back and use knockback. You've got a lot of knockback options with the Condemnors. I think they pretty much all have a knockback attack by the end of by the time they're inspired. But the problem is, if you Forceful Banishment is even easier to score. Let's score this immediately when they're driven back. You don't even have to knock them back. You only have to you have to drive them back, and as long as they've got knockback. The problem is you end up making suboptimal attacks because at the beginning the knockback attacks aren't necessarily the best ones, and if you're playing weaker fighters, you don't get to knock them back because you just kill them outright. So if you're playing say the Goblins or even the Grimwatch, you'll find that actually these cards are quite hard to score, and you've got 2 of them, and you can suddenly find yourself in an awkward suboptimal position where you don't want to kill something to score the objective, but you really want to tactically kill something. So I'm probably get the Heads for future iterations of this deck. What would I bring in? Well, that's a good question. I'd probably bring in Fateful Strike, which is if you score a successful attack action, I think against against a fighter who's got 2 defense dice. That's reasonably good, especially against the beast grade meta. There's a lot of 2 defense dice warbands going out there. Strong start. Chances are you're going to kill somebody first. You're going to kill somebody first in the turn. You've got the wounds, and hopefully your opponent hasn't. Spike. Now this is a bit left field. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter suffers damage, and they suffered 5 or more damage in this phase. Damage in excess of their wounds characteristic count. Well, these kind of go in with Get the Hence and Forceful Banishment, in the sense that you can. You're using your knockback attacks. You don't want to kill people, but there's quite a few fighters. I've got quite a few fighters who do 2 damage, and then I've got a few attacks that do 3 damage. So getting 5 damage on a 3-wound fighter isn't actually that hard, because you can do 2 damage. If you're lucky, you just moved into position to do that and didn't have to charge, and you can do 2 damage don't knock them back, roll a crit and inspire, and then the next attack you can do 3 damage. That's the dream. Spike, I've had some success scoring it, so it's in there at the moment. It can be a little bit difficult to manufacture, but it's an okay card, and it seems to be reasonably reliable. And I do need the reliability because I have got Combination Strike, Opening Gambit, and Solid Gains, which always feels like a bit of a risk, but you've got options for scoring glory for Solid Gains. You should score 1 card for Opening Gambit in the action phase, and hopefully you'll score 2 to pick up Combination Strike, but that's not always that easy. In some ways I'd like to find an alternative for Combination Strike. Team Effort's a good card for these guys. 2 or more surviving friendly fighters, and they've all made an action. It's a good card. You're likely to have 2 left unless it's right at the end of the game. So I think it's a reasonable card. And then this is slightly more left field. Again, it's Conquest and Denial. I'm not a huge fan of running these 2 together, but Tim Greaves, if you listen to our Orc chat, convinced me that it was worth it. He plays it in his Auric deck, and I can sort of see why it's a good combination if you're trying to kill stuff. Then Conquest and Denial kind of match up together. So they're in there, and again, occasionally tinker with the idea of putting Annihilation in there even, but I think they've got the firepower for that. But it's finding those end phase cards that are reliable and give good glory, others you have a very low glory score. So I've got Conquest and Denial. Will I ever score both? That remains to be seen. Gambits. So I've got 3 distraction cards. You've got Fulminating Blast, which is a faction specific one, and then there's Nightmare in the Shadows, which is the newest one, and then of course good old Distraction. So that's 3 distraction cards. Now this deck also has Pit Trap, because you're looking for pushbacks, and Pit Trap is good for that. And you've got options to you can knock somebody back into a lethal hex and use Pit Trap, and they can all be nice. That's an extra bits of damage, which is wonderful. Outflank's one of my favourite cards for these. You choose a friendly fighter adjacent to another fighter, any fighter, friendly or otherwise, push them up to 2 hexes. That can be really, really valuable. Unyielding Resolve, it's good if you're running Calculated Risk, because it's effectively the old healing potion, so you can sort of compensate the fact you've raised Calculated Risk. And then into the poisons. This iteration of the deck has Leadbone Dust, which gives the chosen fighter Ensnare, or attacks against the chosen fighter Ensnare, and doesn't give the chosen fighter Ensnare, which can be really powerful. There's lots of good, strong people rolling 3 dodges, and you give them Ensnare, and your guys can really take them out. So, and that persists until the end of the round, so you do have to be a little bit careful with the timing of it. The other problem is getting adjacent. You do have to have adjacency to use that, but so far playing against Pete, that hasn't been a massive issue. Madness Dart, I possibly wouldn't include this one. The other poison card is also quite good, but this one is really good if you come up against spellcasters, if you get in position, because their attack actions have become swords. They can't use their attack actions anymore. I do like the Madness Darts card. Possibly I might put something else in. I'll see. I wanted to try and cram in as many poisons as I could. In the end, I went for 3. I thought 4 was just too much, because you do definitely need things like Spectral Wings, and I wanted to run 3 distractions. So in the end, I only went for 3 toxins, and the other toxin is Rock Snake Toxin. Choose 1 fighter adjacent again to 1 or more friendly fighters, and the chosen fighter is dealt 1 damage at the end of each action phase. So yeah, that can be really good, especially if you get it in early. The effect persists until the chosen fighter is taken out of action, and it's good against tough fighters, and it's good against weak fighters, because it hopefully will make them easier to kill, or just take somebody out without you really doing very much. The other poison card is when they move, which I can see the use of, because you want to try and prevent somebody from moving. But I've gone for Rock Snake Toxin. I would probably maybe take out Madness Dart and put the other one in. I'm not quite sure. Let me know what you would do. To me, they're sort of equally good, and depending on whichever wind's blowing, I might pick one over the other. Upgrades, they're pretty standard, I think. I've got Potion of Rage, because it's obviously good for aggro band. Tome of Offerings again, because I'm hoping to kill things. It's worth it even if you only get 1 extra glory, so there's a low glory ceiling on this deck. Seeking Stones, a little bit left field, but it's effectively Ensnare. That doesn't say that on the card, and it gives you range, and you do need some range if you've only got 3 fighters, just to keep those attacks coming in, or more opportunities to kill things, maybe you can then push them into a lethal hex or something like that. So Seeking Stones is in there just to keep those attacks up. Blazing Soul, because if your crits aren't coming, then you can inspire somebody, hopefully. A Therically Charged Weapon is effectively a faction-specific awakened weapon, so that's really, really good. Consecrated Pendant, +1 wounds. Enchanted Robes, I really like this card. Fighter treats lethal hexes as normal hexes. You have to watch out for then, because you can't score calculated risk on the fighter you put this on, but the +1 move is invaluable for this fairly slow warband. And then the non-lethal hexes, or not treating things as lethal hexes anymore, can actually give you quite a good tactical advantage if your opponent's been relying on it. It can really mess them up. So I like Enchanted Robes. Sanctifying Armour is, again, I think it's probably even better than Consecrated Pendant. It's when this fighter is dealt damage, reduce that damage to a minimum of 1. That can be the difference between life and death. And Spear, because you can end up scoring extra glory if you take an enemy fighter out of action, which again, low glory ceiling, that's a good card. And Great Strength, the most chosen card in the game, because who doesn't want to give Iron Soul 4 damage? No, it's Brodus, isn't it? It's damage 3. Oh, I think they might both do. Let's have a look. I can't. Oh, the fights cards are here, and she goes to 3/3. Yes, 3/3. So if she go up to 3/4 damage, 3 hammers 4 damage, that's pretty potent. Let's give her a Potion of Rage, and that's quite nice. So that's my deck. It's working pretty well, I have to say. I'm really interested to see the new warbands when they come out, whether we get some more poisons and perhaps a poison objective to bolster these. It'll be really great to do poison condemners. And actually, if I did do poison condemners, I'd really think about getting some hold of the models again and painting them in a sort of poisony, not Nurgle, but a kind of poisony, assassiny type way. I think that'd be really nice. I'm actually really enjoying playing these. I thought that I would hate it, or not hate it, but I thought I would suffer and I wouldn't enjoy it. But I suppose in some ways, as people are enjoying trying to get the best out of the worst, but I've really enjoyed trying to find different ways to play these guys and find a way to make them win. I'm not sure I'll ever make them tournament worthy. I'm not a very good tournament player. I've proved that now. But I'm enjoying the game with these. So that's kind of the main thing, really, isn't it? So let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know if you're having any success with the Condemnors and what you're putting in it. Keep the conversation going. We're all sort of missing our underworlds, and Pete and I are around on Facebook or on Patreon, in particular in the Patreon Discord. But we're around a lot. If you want to chat or tell us how your games are going, tell us how you're getting your underworld fix, and hopefully we'll get a physical game in soon. But until then, we'll keep playing on TTS. I'll see you soon. Bye.